Previously on the show, with the help of the heretics and Bonnie, Caroline safely gave birth to twin daughters. The mysterious vampire huntress Rayna regained possession of her weapon, the Phoenix Sword, and began hunting the vampires she had marked. During a fight with Rayna, Damon was nearly killed, but Stefan arrived just in time to save him. However, Stefan was struck by the Phoenix Sword, forcing him into a life on the run. In order to capture Rayna, Damon and Bonnie, introduced by Enzo, sought help from an organization called the Armory, where they encountered Tyler. To evade Rayna, Stefan fled to an anti-magic bar in New Orleans. At the bar, he ran into Klaus, who was furious when he realized Stefan was hiding from Rayna there, and demanded that Stefan leave. However, in an attempt to win Caroline's favor, Klaus promised to keep Stefan safe, and he kept his word. Tonight is a full moon, and Tyler is about to transform into a werewolf. A werewolf's bite is lethal to vampires, and Damon, in this moment, is far from his usual cocky self. After knocking Enzo out, Bonnie needed to use his handprint to unlock the door to rescue Damon. But as a petite woman, she couldn't possibly drag Enzo's 200-pound body, so in a moment of desperation, Bonnie decided she was going to use an axe to chop off Enzo's hand. Enzo really played himself into having no friends. Meanwhile, having been driven out of New Orleans, Stefan was wandering aimlessly, only to have Rayna catch up to him. She shot an arrow that blew out his tire, forcing him to stop. At the critical moment, Klaus arrived like a hero, landing a blow that sent Rayna flying several meters. Rayna died on the spot. Stefan, now rescued, couldn't believe it. He had no idea why Klaus had changed his mind. Of course, it was thanks to Caroline. Stefan wanted to capture Rayna before she resurrected, but Klaus advised him to leave immediately. This was werewolf territory, and tonight was a full moon. After saying that, Klaus disappeared. Stefan had no choice but to give up. Back at the Armory, as Tyler began to transform, Bonnie used Enzo's severed hand to unlock the cell door. Tyler dragged Damon out of the cell and began mauling him. Damon fought back, and Bonnie immediately came to his aid, but she was injured by Tyler. Damon, furious, forced Tyler to back off. Realizing his mistake, Tyler fled. Damon immediately tried to heal Bonnie with his blood, but found it was ineffective. It turned out that Bonnie still had the anti-magic drug in her system. When Enzo woke up, he found that the collector, Alex, had reattached his hand. He had no intention of working for the Armory anymore. After 4 months of unpaid work, he had gained nothing, and had even fallen out with the last 2 friends he had left.
Consider our deal terminated.
Your family is here, Lorenzo. Your father founded the Armory.
It turned out the Armory had been built by Enzo's father, which meant Alex was technically supposed to call him her great-great-great-uncle. Enzo had just gone from a worker to the owner of the Armory. Meanwhile, Alaric had finally settled down in Dallas. Caroline's escort mission was over, but she was reluctant to leave the twins. If Alaric didn't mind, she wanted to stay for a couple more days.
You can stay as long as you want.
Damon brought the unconscious Bonnie to the hospital and stayed by her bedside, waiting for her to metabolize the anti-magic drug so he could heal her with his blood. While on the road, Klaus returned Stefan's phone to him. Stefan didn't dare expect Klaus to help him all the way. He suggested getting off at the train station. However, Klaus, with a serious look, questioned him.
Do you love her, Caroline?
Drawing from his own personal experience, Klaus warned Stefan that sometimes love means letting go. Stefan suddenly realized they had missed the entrance to the train station. Klaus explained that they were going to see a witch who could help Stefan escape the huntress's pursuit. This was Klaus's promise to Caroline. Rayna was killed by Klaus and then resurrected. Every time she resurrects, she's completely naked, so she stole clothes from a nearby camper. Ever since Matt revealed the existence of vampires to Penny, the two had teamed up to hunt them. But they didn't expect a group of vampires to seek revenge. They were facing certain death when Rayna arrived like a godsend, firing several shots and eliminating the vampires. Learning that Rayna was looking for Stefan, Matt lied, claiming he knew Stefan's whereabouts, but secretly he reached out to Damon. At that moment, Damon was at the hospital with Bonnie. Bonnie had fully recovered from her injuries and regained her magic. Matt used Rayna to eliminate the vampires in town, and most of Julian's old followers were wiped out as well. Damon soon arrived at the bar and teased Rayna, saying, "I heard Stefan has a charming older brother. Maybe you should ask him."
Yeah, stupid brother. Seems foolish of you to come back here.
Suddenly, Matt turned his gun on Rayna and shot her. while Damon seized the moment to rip out her heart. This sudden turn of events left Penny stunned. After all, Rayna had saved their lives. Matt was about to explain that Damon was an ally, but swallowed the words. Damon handed the phoenix sword to Matt to deal with, then dismembered Rayna's body and tossed the remains into a dry well. Not long after, Rayna's body began to burn, emitting thick smoke, a sign that she was about to rise from the ashes once more. Meanwhile, with the help of Klaus's sister Freya, she used a potion to temporarily mask Stefan's hunter's mark, which is why Rayna lost track of him. Valerie arrived to join Stefan. Because Stefan needed more of the herb, Valerie and Stefan, following Freya's guidance, arrived at a herb garden, only to find that the magic-blocking herbs had all been uprooted. They were then knocked out by an old woman covered in sores. With her magic restored, Bonnie's confidence surged. She returned to the armory to demand answers. Alex claimed to know Rayna's secret and led Enzo and Bonnie into a hidden chamber, where 8 corpses of shaman witches were laid out. Over 100 years ago, these 8 shamans sacrificed their lives to Rayna. It turned out Rayna wasn't truly immortal. Each time she dies, one of the bodies decays. Now, only 2 corpses remained intact, meaning Rayna only had 2 lives left. Bonnie secretly sent a message to Damon, and after learning the truth, Damon immediately shot Rayna. At the same time, another corpse decayed. Enzo was furious with Bonnie for betraying the secret, warning her that this could get Stefan killed. It turned out that when Rayna dies for good, all the vampires she marked will die with her. Bonnie quickly contacted Damon. After hearing that Damon had buried Rayna alive, they realized her final life was about to run out.
Rayna can't die again.
Pardon me?
The wounds from her sword. It's linked her to her victims if Rayna dies. One last time.
On the other side, after learning Valerie and Stefan's intentions, the old woman immediately apologized. It turned out that a group of horsemen had stolen the herbs a few days ago. It was likely the work of the Armory, who needed the herbs to make the anti-magic drug to use against witches. Meanwhile, Penny wasn't buying Matt's explanation. Good and bad vampires? So good vampires don't drink human blood? Matt was left speechless. Penny, disappointed, remarked, Mystic Falls didn't get this bad just because of the vampires.
And it starts to be yours.
Stefan was unaware that Rayna had been captured, and he was preparing to continue his life on the run. However, he wanted Caroline by his side. So, Stefan called Caroline and proposed an exciting plan: travel the world while on the run. But on the other end of the phone, there was silence. Caroline was torn because the longer she stayed with Alaric, the deeper her bond grew with the children.
Yeah, I get it. Well, we'll figure it out once this Huntress thing is over.
Yes, we will.
Yeah.
After hanging up, Stefan felt a sharp pain in his chest. The hunter's mark was expanding, and Valerie's siphoning couldn't stop it. At the same time, Damon frantically dug Rayna out, only to find that she wasn't breathing. Damon quickly performed CPR on her. Rayna's last life was saved, but she wasn't about to accept Damon's goodwill. With one hand, Rayna sent Damon flying. Each time Rayna dies, her power increases, and now she had reached her peak. Damon was no match for her, especially since Rayna's life was linked to Stefan's. At the critical moment, knights from the Armory arrived, and Rayna was knocked unconscious after being shot. After hearing the news, Stefan returned home. Damon suggested they celebrate with a drink, but Stefan remained on edge. As long as the mark was still on him, his life was in Rayna's hands. He had to find a way to get rid of it. Damon, however, was drained and listless. He handed Stefan 2 letters, one of them addressed to Alaric. Damon confessed that without Elena by his side, his life felt like walking a tightrope. One misstep and he'd hurt the people he cared about. So, he wanted to join Elena in slumber. Stefan was furious when he heard this. Damon was dead set on leaving, at a time when his brother needed him the most. Stefan made one last plea. If you still care about your little brother,
Your family. And you will not walk out that door.
Save a good bottle of that bourbon for me, brother. We're gonna need to sort all this out in about 60 years.
After Damon walked away, Matt showed up. Under Penny's furious outburst, he realized that if Mystic Falls was ever going to have real peace, all the vampires had to go, including his friends. Still seething, Stefan was not in the mood for Matt's defiance. He stepped closer to Matt, one step at a time, radiating an intimidating presence. Matt's attitude is firm. Stefan is amused, not to mention where Matt got the courage, and this is also his home. But Matt had come prepared. He threatened Stefan with a video of Damon dismembering Rayna. If they didn't leave, he'd release the footage online. Matt had no choice either.
I hate that I have to threaten my friend because he's a vampire. I hate that I'm friends with vampires at all, but this is the only way to break that cycle.
In an abandoned warehouse in New York, Elena's real body was hidden away. Damon had even prepared a coffin for himself. He planned to dry out and slumber beside Elena, awaiting the day they would reunite after Bonnie passed away. That night, Stefan hurried to Dallas and secretly left Damon's letter on Alaric's desk.
The truth is, I'm not in a good spot. Hell, I'm miserable. And I have been ever since she left me.
Stefan stood outside, watching as Caroline joyfully cradled the children, fully embracing her role as a loving mother. As long as the mark remained, Stefan would never truly be free. He couldn't risk Caroline and the kids getting caught in the danger, so he had to bow out. Stefan was truly down on his luck, abandoned by his brother, driven out by Matt, and now Alaric had stolen his love. Fortunately, Valerie was still by his side. As Damon prepared for slumber, he was surprised when Bonnie arrived. She chastised him for not even saying goodbye. Bonnie had learned of Damon's whereabouts and planned from Enzo. It wasn't just Stefan who was hurt tonight. Bonnie was too. Her close friends had all gone their separate ways. The squad had fallen apart. Damon felt a pang of guilt. By choosing to stay with Elena, he knew it meant he would never see Bonnie again in this life. Only when Bonnie dies will Elena wake.
Bon, listen to me.
No. You don't get to say goodbye.
In the end, Damon lay in the coffin, letting his body dry out. When he was awakened by blood, it would be 3 years later. The plot finally connected. After Raina escaped from the Armory, Stefan's mark was reactivated, forcing him to wake up his brother. To deal with Raina, the Salvatore brothers began to gather their allies. Stefan burned his beloved car. Damon went to visit Alaric. Caroline had become a TV executive. A lonely Bonnie had fallen into depression. Raina used Caroline as bait to capture both Damon and Stefan. Stefan had been on the run for 3 years, but still couldn't escape Raina's grasp. He had accepted that his death was inevitable. Unexpectedly, Raina didn't want to kill Stefan. She knew there was a way to transfer the mark to Damon, and after all, the person who should have borne the mark from the beginning was Damon.
You want to pit us against each other. Nice try.
Except it wasn't her idea. It was mine.
After regaining her freedom, Raina set a trap and captured the Salvatore brothers. To drive a wedge between them, she offered to transfer Stefan's mark onto Damon. Damon agreed, but secretly untied his brother. Under Damon's cover, Stefan successfully escaped, and he even managed to steal the Phoenix sword. To verify if the mark transfer was possible, Stefan contacted Valerie. Valerie believed Raina was lying, as they had spent 3 years searching for a way to remove the mark and found nothing. After hanging up, Valerie recalled their world travels from 2 years ago. She had actually known about the mark transfer back then, but out of selfishness, she had kept it from Stefan. Since Damon had been poisoned by werewolf venom and was close to death, Raina left him outside the TV station and continued to hunt Stefan. During the chase, Stefan and Raina engaged in conversation. It turned out that during Raina's 3 years of imprisonment, watching Stefan's life had been her only distraction. Realizing that Raina could spy on him, Stefan stabbed the Phoenix sword into a passing RV and then changed direction, forcing Raina to chase the RV first. Nora and Mary had been imprisoned by the Armory for 3 years. Alex suspected that Enzo was the one who released Raina, so she made a deal with Nora. If Nora could bring Enzo back, she would grant them their freedom. Meanwhile, Enzo had kidnapped Matt, as it was Matt who had released Raina. Enzo was curious as to why. Matt coldly replied, "Ask Stefan. It's all because of him." It seemed that over the past 3 years, Stefan and Matt had become enemies. Invisible Nora attempted to ambush Enzo but failed and was captured instead. During their struggle, Matt took the chance to escape. Enzo carried anti-magic drugs with him and intended to give Nora a few more doses. Nora urgently explained that the drug had severe side effects and taking too much could be fatal. Hearing this, Enzo's expression darkened. He was also desperately seeking an antidote, so he contacted Alex, asking her to bring Mary to him. Later, Enzo received a distress call from Damon. He hoped the Armory could help Stefan escape. Conveniently, there was a private airport owned by the Armory nearby. Enzo sent the coordinates to Damon and Stefan.
I'm loving your James Bond vibe.
Somehow I didn't miss you at all.
Before long, Valerie found Damon, having been sent by Stefan to help cure him of the werewolf venom. Then, they headed to the airport to reunite with Stefan. At the airport, Alex arrived as promised. Enzo was more concerned about the antidote than anything else, but Alex revealed that the antidote hadn't been developed yet, and Mary only had a few days left to live. After being deceived, Nora furiously wanted to kill Alex, but Enzo quickly stopped her. In the end, Nora reluctantly took Mary and left. Enzo still clung to hope for the antidote, but Alex looked on with a smug expression.
Give Bonnie Bennett my regards.
It seemed Bonnie had also taken too much of the anti-magic drug, and Enzo was worried about her safety. On the way to the airport, Valerie confessed to Damon about the mark transfer. The reason she hadn't told Stefan was because there was a catch. The mark could only be transferred to a blood relative. She didn't want this issue to escalate the conflict between the brothers. After all, Damon had abandoned his brother to be with Elena. How could he possibly be willing to take on the mark and help ease his brother's burden? Just then, Stefan called, saying he had arrived at the airport. After being abandoned by Damon for 3 years, all Stefan wanted was to hear his brother say, "I'll take the mark for you." But Damon, still hoping the Armory could capture Rayna, refused to make that promise. While they were on the phone, Rayna arrived at the airport and attacked Stefan. Realizing the danger, Damon urgently asked Valerie to transfer the mark to him, but it was too late. Rayna had already captured Stefan, making the transfer useless. Rayna exposed Stefan's scheme. When Rayna regained her freedom, Stefan's mark was reactivated. To make sure Damon would join him on the run, Stefan deliberately delayed his escape.
Right then, the smart play would have been Valerie. Get your backup girl and go on the run with her again. But that's not who you wanted. Not Valerie. Not even Caroline. You wanted Damon.
He only woke his brother when Rayna had already caught up to him. Some might say Stefan was being selfish, but let's not forget Damon abandoned him first. Stefan just wanted his brother to love him again. Rayna stabbed Stefan through the heart, and the Phoenix Stone absorbed his soul. At the same time, Valerie's mark transfer spell failed. When Damon and Valerie arrived at the airport, they found Stefan's lifeless body. Damon was devastated and vowed to bring his brother back. Matt received a message from Rayna and went to the cemetery to mourn his girlfriend, Penny.
I made Stefan pay for what he did.
It seemed Penny's death was connected to Stefan. After killing Stefan, Rayna continued her hunt for new targets. Nora was struck by Rayna's thrown phoenix sword and marked as well. Nora and Mary knew they couldn't escape death. Mary was dying from the poison, and Nora's life was tied to Rayna's. They decided to stop running and use the rest of their power to do something good. Hand in hand, they cast a spell, channeling all their magic into the Phoenix Stone. The Phoenix Stone began to crack, and Rayna, sensing it as she pursued, showed a look of pain.
I love you. I love you.
Will Damon be able to save Stefan? What will happen after the Phoenix Stone cracks? Stay tuned for the next thrilling episode.